Okay, so I'm here with Troy Hoffman. Is that right? Your name?
That's correct, Troy Hoffman.
And you're a parishioner here, and you had a really interesting experience with you donated a kidney, right?
Right.
And tell me how that whole situation even started. How did the idea of you donating a kidney even start?
Well, I guess just to start with the whole story, it's kind of a unique experience in and of itself. My daughter was going to school, and her teacher, Miss Smith, Courtney Smith, was her teacher, and so my wife and Courtney would email back and forth this and that and whatever. And my daughter had mentioned that, you know, her fiance is ill. We really didn't know that much about the whole situation. And she had said to my wife at one point that, you know, they had a tree that was struck by lightning and they couldn't get it out. And I was like, my wife then volunteered me to go over there, as wives tend to do, to go and help them out, which was no big deal. And I remember, you know, going over there and helping rip this huge root. It was a palm tree, which they have a pretty massive root structure. So I ripped it out and, you know, carried it up front for them. And I just remember, you know, really being the father. His father was there. They came down often from Buffalo. Either the mother or the father was always down here from Buffalo, whereas Jason and Courtney was also from. And I just remember the unique experience of actually feeling the, you know, the passion, the love that they had for one another. Not only Courtney and Jason, but also the father. And the bond was really neat. And, you know, I thought, well, that's a neat experience, you know, just meeting some quality people, which in today's time, you know, you're not meeting quality people as much as you'd like to see. It's society of more about I and me versus, you know, a community, which is what I was growing up in and what most people that are older remember.
Where'd you grow up?
Outside of Pittsburgh, 20 miles out northwest of Pittsburgh, a little suburb.
Okay, so you met these people, and then did you develop a relationship with them? And
well, that came kind of later. Basically, you know, they said that there was a couple people that were being screened to donate, so I just kind of felt a little bad about it looking back, but I was like, well, you know, somebody else is going to take care of him and help him out. So it came like October or late October, early November or something of that nature that my daughter came back, and, you know, Miss Smith was crying, and, you know, Jason was in intensive care. His heart had stopped. They brought him back to life. He had some sort of issue with the losing track of thought here.
What was how was
Dialysis.
he sick? He was like, what kind of, I don't know, can we talk about the disease? What did he have?
He had FSGS, which is basically a disease that destroys the kidneys. In and of itself is a disease that it kind of promotes crystallization of the kidneys, and it just destroys the nephrons. Nephrons are the filtration unit of the kidney in and of itself. Okay. So basically his kidneys were basically slowly but surely being destroyed, and his lasted a lot longer. He had a sister that had the same disease, but hers were destroyed. I believe she had to have a transplant at the age of 13.
Oh, wow.
So she got a transplant from her mother, so that was the only blood type that was the same as Jason, so she could not obviously donate another kidney. So basically that was kind of how that inspired me, that, you know, they already, as a parent, you already seen that, you know, their story, as, you know, they already lost a child. You know, how devastating would it be to lose 2 of your 3 children before the age of 30? She had died of complications from the surgery. The kidney was fine, but from the anti-rejection drugs, she died of leukemia, which can happen from the anti-rejection drugs, from what I gather. But back to like October, when he went downhill and Miss Smith was crying, my daughter came back and had told us about this, and my wife kind of befriended her through emails and so forth, and interactions with school. So they went out for dinner at one point, and I thought that at that point, you know, only meeting Jason once, I felt that it was needed for me to step in and say, you know, why don't you check into what I can do to donate and see if I can be a match or how I can go about that.
So you didn't know that you were a match at the time?
I did not know. The only thing I did know was that we were the same blood type.
Okay.
And
what else has to match besides blood type?
actually, which surprised me, is not a whole lot. They do a, I think it's a 5-point, or maybe it's a 6-point match of tissue mat typings. But with the advance in technology of today, they can give you different anti-rejection drugs that, as long as you're the same blood type, that they can kind of balance it all out. I think there's one exception, but for the most part, if you're the same blood type, it's a good chance that you can probably be a good enough match.
So what were your thoughts going into this whole thing? I mean, it's a big deal. It's not like you were, giving them money or giving them, material or, a physical support. This is like an organ, you know what I mean? Like, what were your thoughts going, what was going through your head? Well,
at that point, I had a couple different occasions that, I was a little, gun shy about it. As I mentioned to you earlier, I have a child that's, at the time was 7 and 8, a girl that's 8, a boy that's 7. But basically, I was starting to think, well, I can't do this. I've never had a surgery. I don't know what kind of response my body's going to have to being put under and what have you. But my daughter had stepped up and said, with the relationship she had built, that, you're going to save Mr. Jason. So as I heard that, I was thinking, well, if she's going to step it up and say, this is an important thing, and you got to step it up for somebody else and make the difference and show, what better way to show your children that you need to do stuff for other people than to actually go ahead and do it.
There really isn't a better way, than giving somebody an organ.
And, and the other things that you get to, when you have a child, and for parents and grandparents, they can attest to this, you can, when they're born, you can think of all the dreams that, they can have. They'll have a dream of, they're going to be a doctor, they're going to be this or that. Jason was a lawyer already, but, I got to hear his dreams. And based on that, I got to see and hear what his aspirations were. And with that, I was able to, hear these dreams. And, you would think a lawyer, they have lofty dreams, I want to be millionaires. His first dream was to be able to walk up the steps, because his kidneys had destroyed him to such a degree that he had such bad anemia that he would have to literally go up 10 steps, stop until he could catch his breath to go to the next 10 steps to get to the upstairs of his own house. So to hear somebody's dreams is an amazing thing. To be able to try to share your life through an organ to make their lives to agree or get to their dreams is an incredible thing. So they can aspire, so they can dream themselves. At this point, their only dream is to dream of having an organ. But without that organ, they had no dreams other than that. So when I stepped forward and said, I can do this for you, and then when we were a match, it was like, then all of his dreams set forth. I can do this. I can have a family that I've always wanted. I can go see other states. I can get up the stairs. This be all to end all, to be able to utilize his own house, to be able to, garden like he liked to do. So many things that he just couldn't do because his kidneys affected his blood production, and he was anemic and he couldn't breathe, basically.
Did he have children?
He didn't have any children at that point, but that was definitely a dream and a goal of his. He had just a nephew and a niece. So yeah, his dreams and aspirations, it's an incredible thing that you can think of all the dreams for your own children, but to actually hear somebody physically tell you what their dreams are and that you can be a part of making their dreams happen is an amazing thing.
That's really powerful stuff. What so when did this happen? Like, do you go under, they take the kidney out of you, and then do they immediately put it in him? How does that work?
That's a neat thing that they do, is basically before the surgery, and you're basically in the operating room, side by side bed, his bed here, my bed was right next to him, and you got to communicate all the way through until they put you under. And I think with power of God and family and friends and everything being behind us, I remember I was scared. I won't deny it, because it was my first surgery, but I remember looking over and just seeing a terror on his face, and I just reached over and said, "No problems, God's going to take care of us, and I'll see you in the morning," basically, because I knew I wouldn't see him that day. And the next day I was able to go down. Well, my wife wheeled me down, and we had a visit, and he was doing fine, everything was good. It was a problem with blood clots that we later found out 3 to 4 weeks down the road, which they didn't really know until the end time for him.
So he ended up not making it.
He did pass away, yes. There was a blood clot that they didn't see that gave him an infection that was systemic. That's not to discourage people, because that was the first time that ever has happened in Miami. That was in the hospital we went to. I think they said ever, and I think they were doing kidney transplants for about 20 years, about 370 or some odd per year. Jason's situation was a much weaker situation. Why, we don't really know, but he was in peril, and I knew it. He had 2 or 3 close calls prior to the surgery, being with his anemia and lack of an immune system. That was another one of his dreams, that he would also come to church more frequently. He couldn't come to church because anytime, which he did every week prior to becoming real sick, he would come to church. But when he started to come to church, when his immune system, he would just get deathly sick. And actually, one of the times after he came to church, it was shortly thereafter that they had to put him into the hospital with pneumonia. So he decided that, he wants to be here with God, but he couldn't be strong enough to deal with the people and then the infections, especially in the winter months when infection runs rampant. So that was another one of the things that he wanted to do as well.
It sounds like a tumultuous emotional journey through this whole thing. It just sounds...
Yes, it was
volatile.
It was very emotional. It was especially the 4 weeks after the surgery. He was getting better, he's getting worse. It was a tough situation with that. But through it all, he always had the dreams and the aspirations that he thought he was going to be better, and have all the dreams that he thought that of with me and with his parents and his fiance and so forth. Yeah, it was a tumultuous time, being that he was sick, and then he could look like everything's looking better and so forth. Back and forth it would go. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, and it was his time to go. But I think that there's nothing better to be able to look somebody in their eye and hear their dreams and say, yeah, you deserve your dreams, and everybody deserves to have their dreams, and not just fear their end game, and that they won't be able to have the full life and have the blessings that we all had and got to experience throughout our lives. And that it was a neat experience in and of itself to be able to share that, and to try to have the blessings that I had with my children, my family, and my good health that he didn't have. So that was a great thing for me to be able to share with him.
What do you think God's message is in all of this? When you hear him talking to you. Like, what do you think, this means? Because it was, this is a big event in your life. This is something that's gonna define you as a person for the rest of your life.
Well, I think God, and it was kind of interesting because, as I had said, I had many of moments that, I can't do this. And, there was always something that said, you're stronger than this, you can move forward. And before the last grouping of testing, I remember saying to myself, well, God, if this is meant to be, then let it be. Your will, I'll do it. So, the testing came out that we were a match, so it's like, okay, well, that's what you want me to do. That's what I'll do. But further on your point, I just felt like this was the right thing to do for me, and obviously God pushed me in this direction. And I thought that it gave a inspirational, and actually my son in an interview said that this was an inspirational moment in his life, saying that at 8. It was like, that means something, that, they can be inspired by a situation that their father did to help somebody else. I think that's the key and overwhelming thing, that, we're all brothers and sisters, and we are here to help one another. And to do that, you have to put yourself out there. And maybe not necessarily, most people won't go to the extent of donating an organ, but even if you don't donate an organ, you can donate blood. There's always ways that you can help people. Donate a swab to get bone marrow and so forth. For other donations, organ transplant, you've got to be in premium help. I won't deny that. And I worked out consistently for 2 months to try to get myself in the best possible health. So the kidney was in the best health for Jason, and I would come out of the kidney operation in the best health that I could be, because I knew I had to hit the ground running, because I had children and so forth, family to take care of. And it seemed to have worked, because when they did pull the kidney out, it was pulsating almost like a heart. They said they have never seen a kidney that healthy. So in so doing, maybe I did give him the best option, basically.
I just finished reading this book called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. It's by Mitch Albom. Mitch Albom is a writer. He's like a sports writer, I think, but it's a book about, this guy who, he dies and he goes to heaven, and he meets, 5 people that whose life he affected or had somehow been affected by. And it was a really, really good book, and it was touching, and the whole crux of it was like he was trying to find meaning in his life and didn't know if he could do it. And then these people come forth and tell him, this is the meaning of my role in your life, and this is how you affected me in a positive way. Now, if when you die and go to heaven, do you think Troy's going to be one of those, Jason, I'm sorry, is going to be one of those people? And if so, what do you think he's going to say to you?
I think that his words to me would be probably like he gave me a globe that said, what was the wording? It was engraved. It said, "Thanks for giving me the second chance at life." And I believe that was how he posed it, is that I gave him a chance to live his dreams, to live them all out as high and as good as he could, and with a quality of life that he didn't understand in any recent time.
What do you think as a final closing question, what do you think you've taken away from this whole experience? What has it done with your relationship to God? What has it done to your relationship to your life and how you see the world and our role in it?
Well, as far as my relationship to God, I really have strengthened that, in that I see that, he does answer, and he does intertwine your life, and he does lead you down to the path that he wants you to. If you want to listen or follow, He'll be there for you. And I think that was a strong point that I found out through this process. What was the other parts of the question? I'm sorry. That was a long question.
You know, what did you sort of take away from it spiritually, the whole experience? Like, you know, how has this changed your outlook on life and our role?
Well, the outlook on life in that, you know, you've always got to consistently try to do the best you can for everybody else. I feel that a lot of people have fallen away from church and religion, and everybody is, to me, not everybody, but a lot of people are trying to look for, you know, material things that are going to make them happy, or money that's going to make them happy, or what have you. And I just found that, you know, that's not important. That's not why we're here. We're here to make people happy, other people happy, and to do this you have to give to other people, whether it be time, whether it be kidney, whether it be just talking to them or helping them if they've fallen, or whether that be physically falling or emotionally falling. Just keeping in mind that there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and regardless of how you do it, whether it be a donation, whether it be just a helping hand, you've got to step up, and you've got to see the people in the shadows and bring them to the forefront, and step up and make the difference for them. There's a lot of people out in the clouds, in the dark, that there's wondering if there's anybody out there, and you've got to be that person to be out there for them. And if you're not, then I feel that you're missing the point of what the life is about, is to help your brothers and sisters.